Okay, I have a question for you, and I want you to be honest.
Lay it on me.
Why is it that sometimes the harder you work, the shakier everything feels? You know that sensation.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
you're hitting targets, the calendar is full, you're pouring in all this energy, but the ground beneath you feels, I don't know, loose.
It's a terrible feeling, and it's incredibly common. We're all trained to think that more effort equals more stability.
Right. If you feel unsafe, work harder. If the business is shaky, sell more.
But the sources we are looking at today, they argue the exact opposite. They suggest that often velocity, just going fast, is actually masking fragility.
Which is a terrifying thought, because it means our solution is actually the problem.
Exactly.
And that is precisely what we're unpacking in this deep dive. We've got a stack of documents here covering two main frameworks, something called wealth architecture and a very specific protocol called the core rule. And honestly, these notes are aggressive.
They don't pull punches, do they?
Not at all. They basically argue that the successful, high-energy people, the ones we usually try to emulate, are often the exact people who destroyed the integrity of a system.
It's a provocative idea, but if you look closely, we're really exploring two main concepts today. First, the core rule, which is all about the people you invite into your world.
Who you let in the door.
And second, wealth architecture, which is about the actual systems you build to hold those people.
So the mission today is to flip the script on how we build. Whether it's a business, a community, or even just running your own household, we're moving away from more, faster, bigger, and looking at this idea of durability.
Right, because most of the world optimizes for velocity. They want speed, volume. But today we're looking at why structure matters more than effort. And this is the part that might ruffle some feathers. Why exclusion is actually the highest form of protection.
Oh, I am so ready for the feathers to be ruffled. I read the list of red flags in here that people were supposed to exclude, and I'll be honest, I felt a little personally attacked.
Good. It's supposed to be uncomfortable. That's usually where the real learning happens. If you read a protocol and just nod along, you probably didn't need it.
Fair point. So let's dive in. I want to start with this concept from the wealth architecture source. It opens with leverage. Now, when I hear leverage, I think, financial or hiring an assistant, basically doing more with less.
That's the standard definition, sure. It's about amplification. But the source here offers a much more fundamental definition. It says leverage is the reduction of fragility.
The reduction of fragility. That is not how I've ever heard it explained. Usually it's all about 10xing your output.
Exactly, because reducing fragility isn't sexy. It doesn't sell courses. But think about it physically. Imagine you have a container, a bucket, a pipe system. That's your structure. If that container has cracks in it, what happens when you pour more water in?
It leaks. Or if you poured it in fast enough, high velocity, the pressure builds and the whole thing bursts.
Precisely. The water is your effort, your cash flow, your energy, your time. And the source makes this crucial point. Structure determines what effort can sustain.
Okay, let's pause on that. Structure determines what effort can sustain. So you're saying I can work as hard as I want, but if the structure is bad, the effort is just
Wasted. Or worse than wasted. If the system is broken, adding more flow just scales the loss. You're just leaking faster. So true leverage isn't about acceleration. It's about designing a structure that can absorb variance problems, stress, without needing you to constantly patch it.
This leads to that idea of quiet failure mentioned in the notes. Because I think of failure as loud. A crash, a bankruptcy.
We all do.
Right.
We watch movies where the car explodes. But structural failure is almost always quiet at first. It happens in the space between attention.
The space between attention. That sounds poetic, but what does it mean?
It's the margins thinning a tiny bit because you're too busy chasing revenue. It's the standards softening just a little to keep the peace at dinner because you're too tired for that conversation. It erodes silently until the integrity is gone. And then, suddenly, collapse.
It's like termites. You don't see them until the porch falls off.
Exactly. And the source applies this to something really relatable, the household.
Yes.
Yeah.
This hit home for me. The text says, a household is an economic system whether you treat it like one or not.
That's a heavy realization. We like to think of home as this separate, romantic thing.
Right. It's just where we live. But this argues your health, your stress, your cash flow, those are all outputs of your household's architecture.
And if you don't have clear sight lines, if you don't see how resources flow, who is doing what, where the energy leaks are, you end up just applying effort to symptoms. You work harder to pay for the chaos at home. You're using effort to subsidize a bad structure.
So structure is the container. We have to talk about who we put inside it. A great structure with the wrong people is still going to break.
Which brings us to the most controversial part of the reading, the core rule.
This document draws a really hard line. It distinguishes between two types of people, stewards and audiences.
It's a vital distinction, and most of us mix them up. An audience member observes, they consume, they are passive, they might clap, but they have no real stake in it.
Right. If the show gets canceled, they just change the channel, no skin in the game.
Exactly. A steward, on the other hand, commits. They activate. They embody the work. They are part of the structure. If it fails, they feel it.
The source talks about this with a 90-day evaluation for new members. But it's not what I thought. It's not, hey, try this out for 90 days.
No, and that's the trap. We want to be accommodating. But the source explicitly says, do not invite anyone who treats the evaluation as a possibility. It has to be a decision.
Is there really that big of a difference? I mean, isn't trying it out just being smart?
In a consumer relationship, sure, test drive the car.
Yeah.
But in a transformational relationship where you're building a culture, no. If someone enters thinking, I'll see if this works for me, they're already halfway out the door. They're sitting back, judging the process.
They're auditing the class, not taking it.
Right. A steward enters saying, I am committing to this for 90 days to see who I become. That is a fundamentally different energy. If you let the possibility people in, they dilute the integrity of the whole group.
Okay, so how do we spot them? They don't wear a sign that says, I'm just browsing. They often say all the right things.
They do, but they give off signals. And the source gives us this incredible, almost ruthless list of non-negotiable exclusions, our red flag list.
Let's run through these because, as I said, some of these felt uncomfortably familiar. Profile number 1, the idea collector.
Ah, yes. The consumer of insight. You know this person. They are often the most enthusiastic one in the room.
I might be this person sometimes. Oh, I love this framework. Send me that PDF.
And let me ask you, what happens to the PDF?
It goes into a folder called Read Later, and it dies there. A digital graveyard.
Exactly. The idea collector loves the dopamine hit of learning something new. They love the conversation. Let me sit with that, they say. But let me sit with it is the death knell.
Why? Sitting with it sounds so thoughtful.
It's procrastination disguised as wisdom. They archive content instead of practicing it. They want the feeling of progress without the soreness. In a group focused on action, they are dead weight.
Ouch. Okay, point taken. Let's move to profile number 2. No skin in the game.
This one is about arrogance. It's the coach who doesn't have a coach, the consultant who won't pay for learning.
The source calls it pure arrogance masquerading as expertise. That is harsh.
But it's true. If you sell transformation, if you tell people you need to invest in yourself, but you won't buy it yourself, you have an integrity gap, you expect your clients to take a risk you won't.
So if they won't invest, they won't activate.
They can't. Because deep down, they don't believe the process is worth it. They think they're above the work. You can't build durability with people who think they're exempt from the rules.
All right, profile 3. This one's tricky because on the surface, this sounds smart. The structure before experience seeker.
What's the comp plan? What's the business model? How exactly does this scale?
I mean, let me play devil's advocate. Shouldn't you know what you're getting into? I want to see the roadmap.
In a transactional relationship, absolutely. But remember, we're talking about stewardship. These people are opportunity analysts. They want to guarantee the outcome before they commit to the process.
They want the map before they agree to the journey.
But the journey is the map here. You cannot understand the value of a lived experience by analyzing a spreadsheet. It's like trying to understand an apple by reading its nutritional label. You can study it for years, you still don't know what it tastes like.
So by demanding that structure, they're proving they don't trust the process.
They're proving they value control over discovery. And you can't build with people who need to control every variable. They crumble when things get ambiguous, and things always get ambiguous.
Okay, profile 4. The consensus seeker. I need to talk to my spouse. Now, surely we aren't saying people shouldn't talk to their partners.
No, of course not. Please talk to your partners. This isn't about being secretive. It's about internal authority.
Internal authority. Break that down.
It's the difference between I am making this decision and I need to inform my partner versus I cannot make this decision unless my partner approves it.
It's about who holds the pen.
Exactly. The evaluation requires you to change. If you need a committee to approve your personal growth, you lack the internal authority to be a steward. You're outsourcing your yes. And if things get hard, you'll blame the committee. You need people who own their yes.
That's a subtle but powerful shift. Okay, number 5. The source says this is the most dangerous one. Hustlers and volume thinkers.
This is dangerous because they look like winners. They have impressive track records. They're high energy.
They're asking, how do I scale this? Let's 10x this. I mean, usually I'd hire this person on the spot.
And that is the problem.
Go.
They optimize for velocity. But remember the very first thing we said?
We are building for durability.
Right. They are the hare, and we are building a tortoiseshell. They will contaminate the group with urgency. They'll want to hack the process, speed it up, strip mine it for value. They turn a transformational space into a transactional one.
That is so counterintuitive. You'd think you'd kill to have the high performer,
Yeah.
but their speed is actually a structural threat.
If their orientation is extraction and yours is stewardship, they will break your structure. They will vibrate the container until it cracks.
Last one, premature sharers.
I have clients who need this right now.
I haven't done it yet, but I know exactly who I can sell it to.
The rule is simple. No experience, no recommendation. If you try to teach it before you've lived it, you're just peddling theory. You have to embody it before you broadcast it.
So we have this list of people to avoid, the idea collectors, the hustlers. It feels like we're eliminating everyone. How do you actually make the decision?
The source offers a tool here. It's called the internal filter. It's a ruthless one-sentence test. You look at the candidate and ask yourself, if this person activated tomorrow, would I trust them to represent this with integrity?
What the scoring?
It's binary. If the answer is a qualified yes, like yes, but they need to learn this first, or yes, if they calm down a bit, then it is a no.
Hesitation is data.
Hesitation is data. You are building a standard. If you let in someone who requires managing, you are introducing fragility into your container. You become their babysitter.
So who is the ideal candidate? If we've kicked out the hustlers and the philosophers, who is left?
The source describes them really well. They are people who already advise others, so they understand the weight of leadership. But crucially, they lead their own household deliberately.
Meaning their personal life isn't a dumpster fire while their business is booming?
Correct. Order, not chaos. And they value evidence over narrative. They trust what they have lived, not just what sounds good in a book.
And the note here says they live it quietly first.
That's the key. They don't need to broadcast every thought on social media. They are willing to practice in private. That shows they are doing it for the result, not the applause.
It really circles back to that idea of design discipline.
Yeah.
We talked about leverage as reducing fragility. The source on wealth architecture calls stewardship a design discipline.
And this is where we put the people and the systems together. Stewardship isn't just saving money. It's about deciding what constraints you are going to accept.
Constraints. We usually hate that word. We want options.
We think we want options. But total freedom is chaos. Durability comes from constraints. The source lists 3 specific constraints that really stood out. The first one is what will not be optimized.
What will not be optimized? That goes against everything we're taught. Everything should be efficient.
But the source argues that some things need slack to maintain integrity. Think about a family dinner. If you optimize that for efficiency, get the food in, get back to work, you destroy the connection.
Or a deep conversation. If you're trying to optimize it for time, I have 12 minutes for your problems,
Yeah.
you lose the trust.
Exactly. Efficiency in the wrong place creates fragility. You have to decide where you're willing to be inefficient to protect quality. You need slack in the system.
That is profound. You can't hack trust.
No. The second constraint is what will not be outsourced.
We touched on this with the household.
Right. There are certain judgments, standards, values, the definition of enough that you cannot delegate. If you outsource the standard setting to a consultant or to society, you've lost the capacity to lead.
You become a passenger in your own life.
Precisely. And the third constraint, what must remain visible?
What cannot be seen cannot be governed.
In many families and organizations, we let things drift into the fog. We don't want to look at the bank account because it's anxious. We don't want to look at the real health metrics.
We prefer the comforting lie. I'm sure it's fine.
We do. But stewardship requires maintaining sightlines to the things that matter, even when it's uncomfortable. You have to see the cracks to fix them.
This brings up what the source calls the cost of clarity. It says clarity isn't free.
No. The cost of clarity is constraint. You have to trade ambiguity, which feels safe because you can pretend for clarity, which is demanding. Clarity forces a choice.
If I look at the bank account, I have to stop spending. If I don't look, I can buy the shoes.
Exactly. Ambiguity lets you drift. Clarity demands you steer, and that leads to that powerful line about the people you choose. It is better to have 7 aligned partners than 15 missequenced ones.
That's the math of durability right there.
Small, aligned cohorts compound, large, misaligned ones collapse.
So let's unpack the big takeaway. We started by asking why working harder often leads to less stability.
And we found that durability doesn't come from effort. It comes from intentional constraints. It comes from deciding what won't change, your standards, your values, so that everything else can adapt around them.
We've learned to spot the idea collectors who just want to talk and the hustlers who want to sprint when we're building a foundation. And we've realized that our households are systems. If we don't treat them like systems, they fail.
And remember, they fail quietly. That's the scary part. You won't hear the crash until it's too late.
Before we wrap up, I want to leave the listener with something to chew on. We've talked a lot about judgment today.
I want to leave you with this thought on judgment failure. When your judgment fails, when you let the wrong person in, or let a standard slip what breaks, is rarely the thing you judged.
Wait, say more about that. If I hire the wrong person, doesn't that person fail?
They might, but the real damage isn't them. It's that your team's trust breaks because you hired them. Your culture breaks. Your own energy breaks trying to manage them. It's everything adjacent to the bad decision that suffers.
That is terrifying and accurate. The ripple effect is worse than the splash.
So look at your life right now, your business, your home. Where are you letting urgency, the need to do it now, or big, or fast replace integrity? Where are you accepting a qualified yes because you're afraid of the no?
That's the question of the week. Where is urgency replacing integrity?
Apply the one-sentence filter. Be ruthless with it. If they activated tomorrow, would I trust them?
If the answer is maybe, the answer is no.
You-
Thank you for walking us through this today. This was durable.
My pleasure.
We'll see you on the next deep dive. Keep building.